everything should go to zero because of technology and AI and like we have unlimited resources. We have unlimited power with the sun. We have, so, and we can always go to other planets. We can, there's all sorts of interesting things that can happen. But I do think that ultimately, if Bitcoin is successful, it will basically approach infinite value. And then there's this potential, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a non-zero potential, a non-zero chance of a Star Trek-like utopian future where we just don't need to care about money and spend all of our time talking about money and value and you get this and I get this. It boils down to a question of you get this and I get this, and what are you worth? What am I worth? What is my time worth? What is your time worth? What is this bike worth? What is this piece of gold worth? What is this book worth? It's like all those questions. When you imagine if we could remove all of this. And so I get to do that once a year by going to Burning Man. And Burning Man is totally decommodified. I recommend everybody go to Burning Man. I've been 11 times and it is like, it's a mind-blowing experience. And yeah, you could think that it's drugs and sex and rock and roll and art and all this crazy stuff. But no matter what you think of it, it's so mind-bending and it totally removes money, and it all comes down to just gifting things, services, products to each other. And it's fascinating. So I think someday all of this, I just went like kind of crazy out there. But I think it would be fascinating if someday the ultimate goal of money or of Bitcoin is to become totally worthless. That might be its ultimate success.
Yeah, we've talked about that last time a little bit, and it's such an interesting topic. Like it really is like thought provoking. And I think I wrote to you on Twitter, like the last episode made me think, and this was the major thing that made me think of like, oh yeah, like money might die, like the possibility of that. And there are many like arguments for and against that, but just the possibility, just that like I could imagine a world like that. It's crazy. I have this weird sense that like people really want a ranking system, some sort of like, oh, like, see, I have more than, I don't know, like this, even, people go out of their way to buy something expensive to show off a symbol, to show off something, just because it like proves a point that you can afford this weird thing, which is obviously in Bitcoin less so, but even in the Bitcoin community, it kind of is. So I'm kind of curious on like how this human behavior of like ranking system and status symbols like might develop.
Yeah. And I mean, I write about that a lot in the book. I think it's all derivative to a couple 100,000 years of evolution where we want to become the most desirable mate. To be evolutionarily successful, all that means is reproducing, period. Genghis Khan, very evolutionarily successful, and the crazy thing is when technology like goes vertical, like, when it goes totally, exponential, those sorts of things change because you don't all of a sudden need to be the strongest with a club and kill people to become the most desirable mate. So money kind of replaced raw physical power, and resources replaced raw physical power as like a desirable characteristic in a mate. And I'm not speaking just for male, but for females as well. It's all about, can I provide? How much can I provide? Or can they provide? How much can they provide? And technology changes all that. If nobody has to worry about being provided for, it just changes the underlying social fabric and our understanding of everything. And so I think that like status symbols, buying things, having more money, it's all derivative to the way we've evolved as a human species. And all of a sudden now we've had this incredible, crazy, transformative stimulus, evolutionary stimulus. And evolution is just adaptation to change, right? Well, now we've had this nuclear bomb of change go off in the last 100, 200 years, which is technology. It's not, And so at the very most basic level, it's going to take us a long time to evolve and adapt to this change. It's not going to happen inside our intragenerationally. It's going to happen over eons. And the thing is, we are still, as like the human species, like in our infancy. And so, I envision a post-money world being one where the incentives are for self-actualization, for happiness, where incentives change from resource-oriented mate desirability, based on what you have or or what you flaunt or how much strength you have or whatever it is or how hot you are, like those things I think will fall to the side as technology and abundance make it clear that those don't give an advantage to anybody. When everybody in the world has as much money and resources as they need, then there's always going to be physical beauty, and I think we're hardwired for that. And there's always going to be physical strength on some level, and there's going to be some of these things on some level. But abundance is going to totally take away the measuring, the need for dick measuring contests. Like we're no longer going to need to see. I mean, everything that we do, the Olympics, like measuring billionaires, who's got the most money, who's number one, measuring our net worth in dollars. All of that, I think, can go away. It's fascinating. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that if we really put all of our resources towards making our lives better, I mean, think about it. Cancer would already be solved. We'd probably already be living to 500 years of age, healthy. We'd probably have the moon and other planets. I mean, we're not living up to our full potential. We're living up to like nothing as a human organism, as like a societal organism. It's very interesting, but I think post-money world is possible, and maybe it takes 100 years, maybe 500 years, maybe 20 years. I don't know with AI. Maybe it never happens. But I think that it's worth discussing because I think that it could make a better world, because right now we're shooting each other, killing each other, war, genocide, mugging each other on the streets over money and resources.
Yeah, that's very true. It's a really interesting one.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. People.
It is. It's like when you think about. I always love those videos that I kind of like for fun explaining human behaviors to aliens.
Yeah.
Because if you explain human behaviors to aliens, sometimes it really then all of a sudden does not make sense what we are doing. It's like, oh wait, you're bombing each other? Like, why are you doing that? Oh, okay. Like there is, so like the whole fiat system does not make sense. Like, oh, you have that? Like, who do you owe it to? Oh yeah, like each other, like, oh, why are you doing that?
So
like
why are you very interesting. That presupposes an alien species that somehow has a technological, advanced, or morally superior ethical position, and they didn't have to go through evolution. Because if they did have to go through evolution, then they would be like, I read about this in the history books, and you guys are like living in the dark ages. And my guess would be that if, unless you were like instantly created, that if you believe in evolution and if you believe on all other alien planets, like species grew out of like atomic structure to molecular structure to whatever the alien slug is, to the alien, chimpanzee, to the alien, to the modern day alien, human analog, and then went through the technological evolution. They probably would have like been there and been like, look, you guys don't need to worry about this stuff. They probably would understand. It's an interesting question. It's almost like if you had to explain it to an AI or a robot that instantly came into being and had sentience or super intelligence. That's probably like the better question, because if you assume like a super intelligence, or you assume that that's coming, like the super intelligence is probably going to just be like, the first thing that it's going to think is like, okay, you guys are idiots. And like, really, like, you guys are morons. So, and here's how to do it better. And then the question is, will we listen or not, or just keep fighting?
And there's also this thing, maybe we have to go through the hurdle and through the mistakes of evolution to end up where we want to be. If we skip, if we take shortcuts, maybe we have to learn the hard lessons later on than supposed to be. Like, I mean, this is like very talk that I'm like, I have no clue about. But if I think just about like a kid growing up, if you protect it too much and let kind of the mistakes later on in life, it also has negative impacts. So like making the mistakes and like not taking shortcuts, but like making all the way for yourself. This is, I mean, this goes maybe in a completely different direction, but that's why I'm a very big fan of not taking in a small startup too much outside capital. Like I like growing things organically, especially if it's your first one, because you learn so many interesting lessons along the way that might get away if. Like if you have a small startup that's like a few tens of thousands of dollars maybe a month, and you learn the lessons along the way, is probably a lot better than getting a venture capital company in there that puts a few millions in the bank, and you're like, oh yeah, like here's money for this problem, here's money for this problem, here's money for this problem. You didn't really learn anything. I don't know if this as a comparison makes sense, but I think sometimes it's very important to go through the struggle, go through a hurdle yourself to learn. And maybe that's also evolutionary. It's good that we don't learn from aliens coming to us and saying like, oh, like, what are you doing there?
Well, and that's what our immune systems do. And honestly, that's why I'm happy that there's this, all these things are happening, the block wars, core and knots, and like these things are essential. You know, like this is actually good. It's good that Bitcoin is going through this. Just kind of bring it back to Bitcoin. But for us as a human species, it's important. For Bitcoin, it's important. It's all adaptation to change and how you deal with problems. And so I think it's necessary. I think for human beings, it's necessary. For Bitcoin, it's necessary. And I think the real problem, though, is, like you said, if an alien technology came and was given to us, or if VC capital goes into like a first startup with inexperienced founders, that's exactly what's happening with technology on a kind of like a macro time scale. Like for 200,000 years or whatever, since they found, Lucy's predecessors or the missing link or whatever, like we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years as modern humans. For 99.99% of that time, incentive structures have been, just live. The average life expectancy was 30 years old. And like, it was like live, find a mate, get it done, have kids, as many kids as you can to be evolutionarily successful. And now all of a sudden humanity is faced with this incredible technological explosion. And now with AI, it's going to literally go completely vertical. And AI is a real wild card, and it's mind bending. And I think it might not be good for us. It could be incredibly good, but I don't think that humanity is ready for all of these amazing fast changes that technology brings, because like you said, we're more hardwired to experience these things in a slow way and struggles. If all the struggles are suddenly removed, there's going to be a lot of people without meaning, without, purpose, with no idea what to do. It's like the lottery syndrome. It's like winning the lottery versus working really hard and getting your millions or billions or whatever it is. And so we're right at that juncture. And I think the most important thing you can do is, because of that, and if you understand that especially if you're a Bitcoiner. If you're a Bitcoiner and you really understand what's going on and you've stacked and you've got a Bitcoin or two Bitcoin or whatever you have, your world is going to change in the next 10 to 15 years. You're going to have a lot of money, a lot of value. And so I think the starting to plant the seeds of, like this, of becoming self-Bitcoinized and like starting to focus on yourself and bringing it back to life enjoyment and growing, those things are going to be the really important things. And there's no better time to start than right now. Like it's just as important to work on yourself as it is to stack Bitcoin. Because like we've talked about, you can be really unhappy and have a whole bunch of Bitcoin.
Fascinating talk. I almost don't want to stop it.
Yeah, no, you gotta. I'll join your
so
stream later. I can't wait. We always have good talks.
Before I let you go, like there's two questions always. There's the returning question, the returning guest question. I don't know how to call it. I have one question for each and every one of my guests that have returned on the podcast, like you have. Mm-hmm. And the question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
That's a great question. Outside of Bitcoin, since my last appearance, I've learned to be even more radically self-reliant. I'm making changes in my life that are a little risky, like you when you hired out and kind of made those changes. I'm making some changes, and I'm branching out, and I'm really starting to do more, and it's very exciting, but it's also a little scary. But I think I was always, just as a doctor, just kind of go to work and see patients and come back home. And I've always been a little bit of an entrepreneur, but now I'm really diving into that a lot stronger. And so I've learned to become more radically self-reliant. And even though it's scary, I've learned that it's like worth it in every way. And so that's been a huge lesson for me.
I don't know if there's any science behind that, but every time I've been excited and scared at the same time, it turned out to be a great thing that I do.
Yeah, I don't know, but all I can say is I think that we worry much more than we need to. And I think there's a lot of like manifesting your dreams in this world. And the more timid you are, the more likely you are to bring problems into your life and create your own obstacles, maybe in your mind, that manifest in reality. But I think that if you like force reality to happen the way you want it to, you actually can have a big impact on reality.
And we have an end routine in the podcast. I'm really looking forward to this question with you, and where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And to preface this question, like don't name that person, like you should not, you don't have to name that person. But he asked, imagine the person that you most dislike in your life. What do you love about them?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, well, first, let me think about someone who I dislike the most, because that's a hard question, because I don't really, that's like a negative emotion, and I really try to not dislike people in the first place. But I'm trying to think of someone who I really dislike first so that I can answer this question.
It was kind of hard because I always try to answer those questions, to go through the motions. Yeah. And I was really thinking, because if I don't like a person, mm-hmm. I tend to this person tends to just like kind of get out of my life. Because if I dislike him, chances are that he dislikes me or she dislikes me. And then it's like, yeah, then it's just not, he's no longer in my brain. And I was really it was really hard for me to find a person, because like we live in bubbles and we tend to live with people that we like. Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.